Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
This is Science for Humans with Dr. Jeff Galini.
Dr. J.
Hey, Carl.
I hear you have to give a shout out because we have two special listeners in the audience. They love the show. Who are they? Tell me about it.
Yeah, my friend Matt Beatty sent me a message yesterday saying that his two kids they love Science for Human. They love listening to what we do. So I wanted to shout out to first Hendrik. Hendrik is 7 years old today, so happy birthday. And June, she is 4. So I'm so glad that you guys like the show.
How do you like that?
Yeah, I got kids, that's great.
So technically 4 and 7, I'd say Hendrik and June are our youngest listeners, huh?
They are, and they must be well educated to listen to the show. So we'll have to do a kid special sometime.
Yeah, that's really that's exactly what I was just thinking. I guess we got to do some kid topics, maybe.
Yeah, there might be more kids listening, through their parents and stuff than we know about.
This is an interesting topic about ginseng. Ginseng intrigued me when I was in college because I read a series of books called the Foxfire books. These were books put together by college students who went through the Appalachian Mountains and learned what these people knew for posterity, because they knew that in decades these things would be lost. Things like making your own soap, tanning your own hides. And one whole chapter was dedicated to ginseng. And back then, that really intrigued me. So what exactly is ginseng, Dr. J?
And it's interesting because we're kind of going off the road here. This is what typically was called Eastern medicine or Chinese medicine.
Right.
I don't know if you've ever been to China, but they don't have drugs and doctors like we have. They use these herbs for all their treatment. I remember once when I was over there, a guy I was traveling with kind of caught one of those traveling colds, and it got pretty bad because his temperature went up. He went to the emergency room, and he came back with a bunch of herbs, and he was like, "What is this?" I'm like, "You're in China. Take it." And boy, I think within like a day, it actually cured it all up. So pretty cool stuff.
Now, isn't that funny? But, the medical orthodoxy here would say that's foolish. They don't work as good as drugs. But clearly, your friend's experience would be contrary to that.
No, it would. And you look at how healthy those communities are, and they don't have all the drugs and stuff we do. But that's the cool thing. I always think that everything that we need is in nature. And, ginseng is a very interesting herb because it grows wild. So it wasn't that anybody genetically modified it. We didn't make it. It was just growing out in nature. And the word comes from ginseng comes from the Chinese word rinxin, which literally translates into man root. And the way they got that is this root actually looks like a man's legs and a man. So that's why, it was thought to contain all of these manly type things. But, boy, we're talking about 5,000 years ago up in the Manchuria Mountains in China was when this thing was kind of first discovered. And, the rich and the famous back then were the ones starting to use it. But essentially, it's a root that grows in the ground.
It's funny because in those books that I was talking about, the Foxfire books, if anybody ever get copies of those, grab them. That's what they call, the people in Appalachian Mountains call it man root for the same reason. If you look at the root that's in the picture on today's show, the root on the bottom, it really looks like a man. It looks like a man's legs, a man's 2 arms, a man's head, a man's torso. No wonder why they called it man root. It really looks like a human being. Well,
absolutely, so, again, it started back then, through Asia at the time as it was called, and, they just found there was so many benefits from it. They would use it for all different types of cures, so, all the emperors would have, this available. It they kind of monopolized all of it for theirs. So they would harvest it, they would dry it, they would keep it, and this was kind of like gold because to them, health was as important as having riches, because what good is money if you're not healthy? It wasn't until like 1716 that a Jesuit priest in Canada, he had heard about this herb, and he started researching, and he actually found some in Canada, and that's kind of when it was introduced into America, and that was the first of the American ginseng. So there's a lot of different types of ginsengs. And one of the things I was going to talk about here real quick, because it's pretty interesting, in America, it's called Sang. And I don't know if you know this or not, but it is huge business.
Oh, people make entire livings collecting ginseng that grows underneath trees. And people, you said it's like gold. If you get caught on someone's quote unquote mountainside picking their ginseng, you get shot in this country.
Oh yeah, it is. And we're talking about West Virginia, Kentucky, some parts of Colorado, Wisconsin, cool climates up there. But I just wanted to give you this, that ginseng comes in different grades. So again, when we're talking about a dietary supplement, this is why it's so important to know where things come from, because as ginseng comes in different grades, so do other things. But the most expensive ginseng is a 15 to 40-year-old plant. $1,400 per pound is the going right now. And even the cheap stuff that, again, is within a year or two is paying like $200 a pound. But that's how sought after ginseng is. And you're absolutely right. There was actually a reality show, I think last year, called Appalachian Outlaws or something. And it was pretty interesting because it was all about ginseng. These guys out there harvesting their ginseng and, shooting at people that trespassed on their wild land that they didn't even own because it just grows out in the wild.
Now, do we have the types of ginseng in this country that they have? Like, I know Korean ginseng is supposed to be popular. There's another one called Panax, Panax ginseng. Do those grow here in the United States, or are those only from Asia?
Yeah, those are from Asia. We actually, what we have is called white ginseng or American ginseng, and it actually is the most expensive of all the ginsengs. The Panax usually comes from China. The Korean, named after because it was found in Korea. You got your red ginsengs, which again come from overseas. They are, planting some ginsengs, but for the most part, it grows wild. It's not something that you can really domestically plant. For whatever reason,
I always wondered that. That's something that always boggled my mind. It's like if it's wonderful plant that's worth so much money, why not just cultivate it and grow it on your own land? It doesn't grow, huh?
It must not. I mean, because again, it's got to be cool. It's got to be up in the mountains. It's got to be untouched. And it takes years. It isn't something that, you plant the seed and you harvest it in the late summer. This takes 5, 6, 10 years. I mean, 40 years for the good stuff, And again, I don't know what's the difference between a 40-year-old ginseng and a 5-year-old ginseng, but apparently, the Chinese doctors know the difference. But, ginseng contains alkaloids. That's what's really important. The ginsenosides are what's found in the Panax, the Americans. The Siberians contain some erythricides, some different types of things. But essentially, they're all in one big family. I think there's like 11 different species of ginseng thus far that have been identified.
Okay, so wait, hold on a second. So the ginsenoside is what's mostly standardized when you buy a ginseng supplement, right?
Correct. You can buy it two ways. So if you just see a label that says, for instance, Panax ginseng, what that means is they've taken the root, they've dried it, and then they've grounded up the root. So you're basically getting the whole thing. That's what China does. They don't usually standardize those things. They like the whole root, the way it is, dried. You either chew on it, you make a tea out of it. They will grind it up for capsules. Now, with advanced extraction processes, we now know that some of the active constituents that is in that ginseng is probably what is causing all the benefits. So by taking 1 pound of ginseng or taking 5 pounds of ginseng and making 1 pound of extract, we can concentrate out those active constituents. Mm-hmm. Now, you can imagine if it's $1,400 just for a pound out of the ground, what is that going to cost, from processing, extraction, and then somebody making a profit on it? I mean, you're looking at, several $1,000s a kilo,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So pretty expensive stuff.
Let's just talk about how they make these extracts for just a second. I learned this about ginger. They probably do the same thing with ginseng. So they take the whole root, they grind it up, and then they soak it usually in ethyl alcohol. And then they take that liquid, and then they find a medium, and it could be ground up ginseng powder, and then they spray it back on so that you actually have 10 times the concentration of all the things found in the ginseng sprayed onto a smaller amount of, let's say, cellulose fiber or something like that. And that's how they end up with these 10-to-1 and 20-to-1 extracts, right?
Yeah, that is correct. I mean, and depending on what you're extracting, you can do a water extraction, which when you make coffee in the morning or you make tea, you are actually doing water extraction because you're taking X amount of a ground and you end up with something more concentrated. Now, with the water extraction, you're pulling out caffeine and, some of the polyphenols. But ethanol or methanol will actually rupture the cell sac of these herbs. And that's why alcohol a lot of times is used in the extraction process. But you're absolutely right. Typically you would run it through a machine where essentially it's like running the coffee grounds over and over again until there's nothing left. Mm-hmm. Now you've got this liquid. You could spray dry it onto a carrier, or you could actually just freeze dry it as it is, so you even get a more concentrated. So depending on what you want the concentration to be would depend on, how you dry it. And again, it takes several pounds to end up with a small amount of that finish. But again, the concentration is extremely high.
Okay, why don't we do this? Why don't we take a break? And when we come back, let's talk about what ginseng is good for. We understand where it comes from now and that there's different qualities of ginseng. But there's lots of information out there. Ginseng is one of those things that's been studied for thousands of years. So let's see if we can tease out the folklore and find out what it really benefits us. How about that, Dr. J?
Sounds good.
All right, so stay tuned. We'll be right back with more science for human. For humans. No, just me, human. All right, we'll be right back. Do you know how to properly use carbohydrates to ignite your performance in the field and in the gym? You will now, thanks to this free book by EFX Sports. The Carb User's Guide for Maximum Performance reveals why omitting carbohydrates from your diet can totally crush your gains. Ever wonder how many grams you need for your specific sport? Not anymore. We give you the critical number you need to dominate your competition. You'll even discover the super carb that's taking the athletic world by storm. You must try it to believe it. Go to getcarbolin.com/carb guide today and get your copy absolutely free. Once again, it's getkarbolin.com/CARBGUIDE.
Ever feel like you want something crunchy? From the company that gave us the Quest protein bar, now comes the Quest high protein potato chips with 21 grams of high quality protein and only 5 grams of carbs and no artificial ingredients. Just like Quest bars, you'll feel like you're cheating, but you're not. Go to superhumanradio.com and click the Quest High Protein Potato Chip banner ad today and get ready to be satisfied. Thanks to Quest Nutrition, chips just aren't what they used to be.
From the makers of GLC 2000, now comes Actistatin Pro Athlete. The Actistatin formula gives you all 4 forms of glucosamine and chondroitin, plus Actistatin's triple patented delivery method to optimize cellular uptake and utilization of glucosamines, chondroitin, ascorbate, and manganese. Regenerate and maintain cartilage. Promote joint mobility and flexibility. Replenish lost collagen. Get 20% off your next order using the coupon code SHR. Go to superhumanradio.com and click the GLC banner ad today. Push the limits. Feel the difference with Actistatin.
Superhuman Radio has the smartest and most dedicated health and fitness listeners found anywhere in the world. If you're trying to tap this market of greater than 50 million health fitness consumers, you simply can't do better than advertising on Superhuman Radio. Our sponsors tell us Superhuman Radio outperforms other forms of advertising time and time again. If you're tired of wasting valuable advertising dollars and need a new way to build your client base, go to superhumanradio.com and click on the Advertise with Us link. It just may be the best thing you have ever done for your business.
Prime Nutrition is proud to present Max HP, their most scientifically formulated pre-workout supplement to date. Now available in 2 great tasting flavors, tropic fruit and raspberry. Max HP is the most ultra premium pre-workout available and is made without any artificial colors, flavors, or dye. Increasing blood flow to heighten anabolic activity, Max HP is designed to meet the heightened metabolic needs of high-performance athletes. Visit PrimeNutrition.com and use coupon code SuperhumanRadio to receive 20% off of your entire order. Go to PrimeNutrition.com today.
There are a few products that I believe in the way I believe in Can-C eye drops. I've been using Can-C for 6 months now, and the changes in my vision are nothing short of amazing. My near vision has improved, and I can read small print from 8 inches. My overall vision is clearer, and the glare from oncoming headlights doesn't bother me any longer. Just 1 to 2 drops a day, and the results are visible. You can find Can-C eye drops at wisechoicemedicine.net or call 800-861-4936. That's 800-861-4936. wisechoicemedicine.net. Can-C eye drops. The name says it all.
The category killer is back. Mass Pro Synthogen, with results literally from Workout 1. You'll recover like you're a teenager again. If you've been pouring your heart out in the gym with little to nothing to show for it, you owe it to yourself to see the performance-enhancing and cosmetic effects it can make almost immediately. One user said, "I wish I could have tried it sooner. I just ordered 2 more bottles." And another, "The overall single best bodybuilding supplement I have personally ever used." Visit CoachRobRegas.com or PredatorNutrition.com to learn more today. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
This is the Superhuman Channel. Evolution just got kicked up a notch.
Go, 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 go.
Welcome back to Science for Humans. We're talking about ginseng. You know, when I was a young man, Dr. Jeff, I remember ginseng was marketed to the elderly. It was supposed to increase the quality of life and increase energy as you aged. Has any of that stuff actually been proven? What can we actually say ginseng is good for?
You know, obviously Western scientists, as we're called here, and health professionals, they don't put a whole lot of benefits into any herbs. Although, you know, several years ago they did come out with the PDR for herbal medicine, so they at least started to recognize. But there has been studies. You know, I mean, I think as an energy provider, ginseng helps with stimulating physical and mental activity. There was a study that the Mayo Clinic did that revealed that ginseng showed good results in helping cancer patients with fatigue. So there has been studies, but no one's really put a lot of money into it because the drug industry hasn't figured out how to tap into this. And obviously those are the guys that do most of the studies. But there's also been some studies, these ones were done in China, on just cognitive function, you know, being able to think better. They published some research in the Cochrane Library. Now, they said it wasn't really conclusive, but, you know, again, there was enough people that seemed to be able to mentally process things better using ginseng. Anti-inflammatory effects. This comes from the ginsenosides. There's been a couple published studies showing that ginseng could help with some anti-inflammatory. Now, this is one that was interesting. One of its claims of fame in China is cancer prevention.
Really?
Yeah. They say that substances in ginseng have anti-cancer properties, and a few population studies in Asia have linked the herb's consumption to a lower risk of cancer. So, you know, there's some studies being done, but, you know, really what they're looking at is, geez, why is there cancer in this area but not in this area? And these guys, everyone eats ginseng. So, you know, that's kind of how they are determining. Probably ginseng here in the U.S. is usually found in male-type products, hence the male erectile dysfunction.
Libido enhancers.
Libido. And there's a British Journal of Clinical Pharmacology said that there is evidence for the effectiveness of red ginseng in the treatment of erectile dysfunction. So again, we're seeing lots of this. Again, another thing that it's used in China for is flu. It's the cure for the common cold. So I think everybody gets ginseng, whether they're tired, they have cancer, inflammation, sickness. It's kind of the all-around thing. And there have been several studies that show that it seems to help with the treatment and prevention of influenza and different types of respiratory viruses, RSVs. I've used it before. It's not a regular part of my supplement regimen, but I think it's pretty good. And I think the whole idea behind kind of going off the normal beaten path is we usually are just talking about proteins and foods and vitamins and minerals, but you got this whole botanical thing happening everywhere else in the world. And again, it's an option for people who are looking for a natural way to feel better.
It's funny. You said something before that that the pharmaceutical industry hasn't figured out how to profit from this yet. And usually, what they do is they look at the standardization. They say, "Oh, the ginsenosides are where the magic is," and so then they synthesize those, and then they patent it, and then they sell them as a drug. But then we find out that there's more going on in the root than just the ginsenosides. And so the reality is that modern day doctors, well, maybe a few exceptions, but the majority of modern day doctors are not going to tell their patients about these herbs or even things that are well known as adaptogens like ashwagandha or rhodiola that have been proven time and time again to work and effective. They're not going to recommend them. The reason they're going to cite that they're not going to recommend them, keep in mind, is, well, it's a dietary supplement. There's really no way to tell the quality. Next time you ask your physician, "Hey, doc, what do you think about ginseng?" He's going to say, "Well, I really don't know much about it. It's a dietary supplement. You really don't know what you're getting." Then ask him a second question. Say, "But let me ask you a question. If I have a company that actually publishes their lab analysis of what they're selling, and it is what it says it is, what do you think about ginseng?" Take that question off the table of the quality. Tell them you found somebody who actually is pharmaceutical grade. They published their research. They published their lab analysis, and say, "So now what do you think about ginseng?" And he won't have an answer. And the reason he won't have an answer is because he knows zero about it. He was about to poo-poo it because it's an over-the-counter supplement and, quote-unquote, the FDA doesn't regulate that, which isn't true. That's a lie. You can correct them on that one, too. But that's BS, because we have pharmaceutical drugs every day that are manufactured improperly and hurt people, and then there's a recall. So,
well, and do you know where your drug is being manufactured? Absolutely not. I mean, most of these, even American companies, are making their products in Mexico. It's cheaper. They don't have all the regulations here. But I think what it comes down to is, as I said earlier, there is something that doctors, all doctors at least have some copy. It's usually an old copy. They don't keep up with it. It's called the PDR, the Physician's Desk Reference. And what this does is it lists every drug, how to use it, what the side effects are, and what it's good for. And this is kind of the Bible for doctors. Doctors will always go look up that PDR. Now, it comes out on a regular basis where they're always adding and updating things. They have studies. About 7-8 years ago, the PDR people came out with the Physician's Desk Reference for herbal botanicals. Studies, what it's good for, side effects, the same thing as a drug. And then they came out with one for nutritional supplements. The problem is they will say, "Okay, well, I believe the PDR guys, they're the holy grail here, but I don't want to believe them over here. I don't want to even look at that."
Yeah, and that's
look
something.
At all the options. I mean, it's well done. I mean, it tells you what side effects, what it does, what the studies are.
And I know that would be a great question to say to your doctor and say, "So let me get this straight. You believe in the science in the Physician's Desk Reference when it talks about pharmaceutical drugs, but you don't buy it when it comes to over-the-counter supplements and herbal supplements. So you selectively choose what science to believe and what not. Maybe I should choose a different doctor."
Well, you know what? I just went in not too long ago for my yearly checkup. You know, I like to get my blood done, and my doctor, of course, knows that I don't do any drugs, and very rarely will I even take anything. He looks at me and goes, "You want a flu shot?" I go, "Nope." He goes, "Why not?" I said, "Well, wait till you get my blood test back." So he gets my blood test back, and he calls me. He goes, "Well, keep doing what you're doing." And I said, "Doc, you know what I do." I said, "You know, you guys need to look at what we do at our industry, because I'm not taking any drugs other than a little bit of allergy spray, you know, for my nose, but I don't take anything else, and look at what my blood does compared to all the people that you guys put on all these drugs." I said, "So maybe you better crack that botanical and nutritional supplement PDR." Right. He just started laughing and said, "Yeah, you're probably right." But they just don't have time, you know what I mean?
They don't have time. Really, you know what? I only partially buy that. They obviously have the time to have some pharmaceutical rep come in and tell them why they should start prescribing this and that. Jeff, so Dr. J, where should people get their ginseng supplements, and how should they choose to buy, what to buy and where?
Yeah, and you know, my recommendation is you always get these things from your local health food store. You know, brands like Now, Solgar, you know, these are reputable brands. They do a lot of testing. They're in this marketplace. Don't go buy them from, as I say, the dollar stores or the big box stores, or buying online where you can find the cheapest. Buy them from your local health food stores, because these people know the brands. They talk to the owners. They make sure that they're carrying good things, because this is their reputation on the line. They are well-educated people, and they don't bring brands in that they don't personally believe in or try. So again, if you want to try some ginseng, find your local health food store and go in there and talk to them. Ask them about ginseng and which brand that they recommend. You will find out how educated they are, and that they know everything about everything in that store.
Have you ever taken ginseng?
I have. You know, it's been some time since I used it, but when I was bodybuilding, yeah, I did use it on a fairly regular basis. It was one of the first herbs that I actually found out about. You know, I thought that it did help me just kind of with my overall mental acuteness. I was trying not to do as much caffeine and stuff as we had done in the past, and I was looking for alternatives.
I remember buying a ginseng tea about 10 years ago and drinking it every morning. I actually enjoyed the flavor. It has a very interesting earthy, kind of tangy flavor. It's very, very enjoyable for people who like teas. And I may go ahead and get some more, I think.
Yeah, I've got a couple teas that have it in it. You normally find it with like ginger and stuff. A lot of these teas that are good for, you know, cold and flu and different ailments, that's where a lot of times you will see ginseng. So I do have a couple that during the wintertime that I do drink. But yeah, I think it's good. Try the tea, if anything else, you know, and you definitely feel better from it.
I just bought ginkgo biloba tea, because ginkgo biloba is good for your brain, but it's good for blood flow throughout the whole body. And I may try to find some ginseng tea and make my own concoction and see how it tastes.
There you go.
We'll talk about it on a future Science for Humans. How's that sound?
I'll try to find some when you're out here later in the week, and we'll mix them up, huh?
Yeah, so that's right. Just a reminder, this Friday, Good Friday, it's going to be a really good Friday. It's going to be a great Friday, because Elisa Profumo and I will be out in Montana with Dr. J doing our once-a-quarter Casual Friday show from AAP headquarters, so don't miss that for sure. We'll see you for steaks very shortly after we train, I guess, right?
Absolutely, and thanks to everybody. And, you know, if you have a question, go to Superhuman Radio, ask the scientist, ask me anything you need. Follow me on Facebook, Dr. Jeff Galini, and appreciate your support.
And also look for his soon-to-becoming Facebook page, Supplement Santa.
Yes.
everybody who asks for a sample of something gets a big box of all sorts of goodies. So don't forget that.
One guy said something the other day that I think kind of summarizes it up. He said, "Boy, talking about over-delivering."
Yeah, under-promising and over-delivering, that's for sure, huh? All right, Dr. J. So we'll see you in a few hours, actually. How's that sound?
Yeah, it sounds good.
All right,
Take care.